LA Chargers have been all over the news this weekend. They blew a 27-point lead. Obviously, now there's a big cloud around Brandon Staley on his future. I know he's going to meet with the Spanos family pretty soon. Um, so I don't know what to make of it. It's pretty crazy to see what's going to happen. But what do you? I mean, you've been around the organization. Do you think they're going to fire Brandon Staley?
Yeah, before I get there, this is why we asked an engagement question. Who are you blaming here? And it's hard to point the finger at somebody, but when you have a debacle like that, someone's gonna get the blame. And I think it's gonna be one of the coaches. And to answer your question, I don't think it's gonna be Brandon Staley. I think Staley's gonna come back and it's gonna be Joe Lombardi. And I think that's gonna be music to everybody's ears. Everybody got fed up with Joe Lombardi. 2 years of this of like the first year was okay. Like I saw some the growth there, but then I was like, this could be so much better here. And they couldn't do it. And then this year, they just took maybe 3 step backs. And then when you go 27-0, and you only get 3 points in the second half, to me that goes to the offense. And the reason why I say Staley should be back, you finally saw the growth on defense, and I thought it was bigger than what the offense has been doing. So when Brandon Staley finally gets it clicking, and I'm always a person who says 3 years, man. You got to give a coach 3 years, but the second year is a big one. You got to see, you're planting the seeds and you're growing, and that's what we saw with Staley. So the other thing too is like, if you fire Staley, you're gonna fire him for a proven coach. You can't do this new coach again, right? There's a lot of the names out there have never been a head coach before. The one who's a proven coach is Sean Payton, but that's gonna be a tough guy to get. So to me, I feel like Staley's gonna be coming back, and I'll just end this real quick, Fernando. It's just like, how do you explain what the Chargers did on Saturday night without just saying that's just what they do? That's the Chargers. That's the Charger way. They just keep charging. That's the word, right? And a lot of people thought Brandon Staley was going to get rid of that because he attacked the whole curse thing, losing on a field goal, injuries, one score games, just blunder after blunder, and he wasn't afraid to talk about it. And that to me felt like, okay, that's a good way, but they still can't get out of it. And that's why I couldn't put the Chargers in that top 3 level with the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Bengals, because the Chargers always get in their own way.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. The only thing is that it would be fitting in a sense. Tom Telesco's tenure as a Charger general manager started by blowing a 24-point lead against the Houston Texans. It would only be fitting that his tenure end after blowing a
Yeah.
27-point lead to the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's
I,
interesting, but I mean,
I
it's
heard
funny
that. I
because
heard that on What's Up Bolts, by the way, and somebody gave you a shout out for that comment
oh
too.
really? Oh, I appreciate that, but it's interesting because everybody's pointing at Brandon Staley, and I feel like it's kind of like no, I'm not gonna say it. It's
You can't just do that and then be like, I'm not gonna say
well,
it.
it's what Tom Telesco wants. It's like he doesn't want to like at one point he was receiving a lot of the blame. And now it's like, oh, it's kind of gone off to Brandon now, and now nobody's really talking about Tom. So I just find that a little bit interesting. I don't know how you would think,
Nope.
but it's kind of like now it's back on
No.
Brandon. But
That
to
that's a,
me,
that's a good point. I real quick, Fernando. I hadn't even thought
yeah,
about that. Like, we're always asking, what about Brandon Staley? Will he be fired? Will he not? And we're not asking enough about the GM. And to me, they're at least
fourth head
they're a
coaches,
pair. They're an item. You got to blame them too.
you're gonna let him get a fourth head coach. You
That's
can't.
unheard of.
I mean, this is his roster. This is his team. I understood if he was a 2-year general manager right now. Well, there's still pieces from the Anthony Lynn and whoever else was the GM era. But no, this has been your team for 10 years. You have not won. You have only gone to the playoffs 3 times. You're 2-3 in the playoffs. And guess where we're headed next year? Brandon Staley's 3rd year. Do you remember what happens in the head coaches of Tom Telesco era? In their 3rd year, they take a dip. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens next season. But this year they were this is another thing too. They've been more aggressive during the Brandon Staley era and going and getting free agents. They got Corey Linsley. They traded for Khalil Mack. They went out and they got J.C. Jackson. So like they have been aggressive when it comes to going out in these 2 years. But now this year, are you going to be aggressive again? Like there's just so many question marks. But the question marks there are Are they gonna keep both of them? Because I think if Brandon Staley goes, you have to take Tom with you. There's no way they can keep Tom and let him go. That's four. That'd be his fourth head coach that he would hire, and I just think it's tough to tell your franchise, oh, we're gonna run it
Well,
back with Tom.
I know we got to move on to the
Yeah,
other
yeah.
team in LA, but real quick, if Brandon Staley is not the Chargers coach, like is it pretty much Sean Payton or nobody else? Like who's somebody
No, it
who
has
you
it
do it
has to be
for?
Sean Payton. Like the thing is too, you look and your first round draft pick, it's gonna be the 22nd, 23rd pick. 22nd, I think it is right now. What have you really done with 20 plus? You got Jason Verrett. Jason Verrett was good for a year, but then he got hurt and he's been hurt ever since, unfortunately. He could have been a top cornerback in the NFL. The other one was Jerry Tillery, who we all know what Jerry Tillery is, what Jerry
Yeah.
Tillery was, and what Jerry Tillery is going to be in the future. So I just don't see why you wouldn't go draft him or why you wouldn't go trade that pick for him. Another thing I was thinking too, do you really have to give him a new contract? He's under contract for 2 years. Why not? Maybe. Well, no, he's gonna want that new contract, I guess, if you trade for him. But yeah, I
That's
would
the
give
other.
him the money.
That's a downside though. You have to trade for Sean Payton.
Well, yeah,
But
and that's the thing. But I mean, I wonder what would get. I wonder if 2-2s would get him. But it just sounds like he said on the Cowherd show on Monday. He said it's gonna take a first round draft, a mid to late first round draft pick.
oh
I'm like,
my,
damn, you already know he's a chick that knows his worth. He knows he's a mamacita that knows his worth. He's like, papi, ¿quieres venir por mí? Ya sabe.
well, I don't know if you can convince people for first round pick. That's gonna be tough, man. But the thing I keep going by, like, if you're gonna move on from State, you can go to another first timer. Yeah, Ben Johnson is great at calling plays. Ebro from the Broncos is a
No,
great
you
defensive
can't.
coordinator. These are all new coaches. You can't
But
do that again.
and I told Dan and Dago, the thing is that I understand what everybody's saying. Like, you can't go get a first, and I know you can't. But look at the difference when you have a head coach that knows and a head coach that's been there before. You just got beaten by a Super Bowl winning head coach. Andy Reid has beaten you numerous times. Super Bowl winning head coach. Those guys have been there before. They know what it takes to get over that hump and into the horizon, and they know how to get over it. And that's why in crucial games, in crucial moments, that's why those guys dominate. Like, to me, Austin Eckler shouldn't be your every down back. You need a thumper, a guy that's going to take the beating and go and get you those first downs. They were trying to use Austin Eckler on Saturday. Dan and Diego said it before. You're going to use him as a thumper, and it's not going to work out. And besides, Austin Eckler's body towards the end of the season, you can tell, is beat up.
Yeah,
And he's a kind of like
that's a good
hyperbolic
point.
time chamber Dragon Ball Z to come back and have his body healthy again. But it's just like, you know what I mean? Like,
Well,
coaches know, and,
this
and
is
he's
why you
good at.
listen to What's Up Boats. I'm not trying to cut you off right now, but that's a
No, I
good
know.
point, a great point. I did not even think about that because Austin Eckler, all he kept complaining about last year was like, I need help. I need help. And I don't think Joshua Kelly was the answer to help out.
Yeah,
But make sure to check out What's Up Boats on Spotify,
yeah, I
YouTube,
appreciate. Well,
Apple
now,
Podcast. And real quick, Fernando, that last podcast you guys dropped to kind of sum up the season did well. Is by far your guys' best podcast. You guys doubled the numbers. And that's a credit to you and your brother, Dan and Diego, and for the support that you're getting at on What's Up Boats. We appreciate everybody because you're
yeah, no,
supporting Fernando, you're
we have great
supporting me, and I
listeners.
love it.
Yeah, no, we have great listeners. They're awesome. They really, and they stay engaged. I mean, they hit up Dan or they hit up myself, and they're always great. So definitely, we're so lucky to have these listeners who really, I mean, they care. Karen loves sports. Obviously, Karen's always been a huge fan. We love Karen. She always shouts us out. And Gilbert, I think pretty soon we might that we they told you they got to 200 subscribers. That
Oh yeah,
Herbert
I
shirt is
gotta I
gonna
gotta
find a
crown
new
a winner
home.
on What's
So
Up Boats. Yeah,
they took your challenge and they said eat this, and boom,
yeah.
they got up to, I think, 220. I think we're at 220 now. So they they double they went past what you wanted. So definitely we have some great people listening. But now let's jump over to a House of Horns topic. Sean McVay says he's gonna return for 2023. That's interesting. I think I think Sean is so competitive that he didn't want to go out a loser, and people kind of say, "Oh, you're going to go out. You lost your first season. Now look at you. You're going to tuck tail and run." My question is, though, how much of this thing can he keep together? That's the question. Can he keep this thing together? And I know people were freaking out. Was it yesterday when Aaron Donald supposedly switched to
Oh yeah.
former NFL player? Um, and uh, and so I'm interested to see if Aaron Donald's going to want to stay and do this again. Jalen Ramsey kind of posted a cryptic
Yeah.
message or something the other day that sounds like he may not come back. By the way, little Daniel tells me he's like, "Hey, I saw this like mock thing where the Chargers could trade for Jalen Ramsey and blah blah blah." I'm like, "Stop!" I was like, "That's a lot of salary to take on, especially with the guys that you already have on salary." And he's like, "No, but if you trade your first round draft pick," I'm like, "No, I'd be surprised if they went after Jalen Ramsey. Like, it'd be a good move. The guy showed you can still ball, he can still play." But I'd be surprised. But I'm interested to see what the future is of this team. And like I said, I think Baker Mayfield should stay. Now that Sean McVay said he's going to stay, I think Baker Mayfield should stay. Interested to see what Matthew Stafford's going to do. I think once we get closer to training camp, he's gonna see if his body really can go or not, and we'll see what this year brings for Sean McVay. But uh, I I don't know if we'll see a redemption year just because I want to see what that roster is going to look like. Can you fix the offensive line? Can you fix the defense? The defense needs help. Is Raheem Morris going to come back? Are you going to let him go, and are you going to bring in a new defensive coordinator? So there's a lot of questions about this defense and about this team that I still need answered. But hey, the first step that you got was you got the okay that Sean McVay is coming back, and that's obviously a positive because you don't need to bring in a new face. The guy knows it. The guy knows the city. He knows the team. So that was the one positive. You bring back Sean McVay.
Even when the Rams are losing and they're not even in the playoffs, they're still trying to make headlines. Seeing the whole Aaron Donald thing was annoying. But part of me is like, why did they do that? That was so weird. Where he goes from like
Yeah.
former defensive lineman for the Rams, and then people start catching wind of it, and
It
they
was during the
change it
game too.
immediately. Yeah, I think you know how Marshawn Lynch was trying to retire during the Super Bowl a couple years
Yeah.
ago, and he didn't want to have attention. Maybe he was trying to do that, but then his wife comes out and says like, "Okay, everybody chillax." The whole Michael Scott thing, chillax, and so that makes me go, "Okay, he's not gonna retire." But then who wrote former on his profile? It's just weird. I forgot about it. Like I was really trying to enjoy my weekend. I'm like, I don't want to deal with this. So you just remind. I really forgot it in my brain. And real quick on McVay, on Friday, I was actually driving somewhere and I had to stop. So I did work this week and do a story on Sean McVay
So
returning
what did
from.
you pull out your like in your car? You pulled it out and you just wrote it there, or
Well, luckily I was driving. I was gonna go to Anaheim and I was going through Pasadena, so I know the area very well. And I went to a Starbucks. I pulled up there and I took up I had my laptop. I always take my laptop everywhere. If I'm not on official vacation and I got called out for reals, I need my laptop everywhere because you never know what happens. I had it ready, went to like a Starbucks and wrote Sean McVay is coming back. And honestly, I was surprised, Fernando, because he sounded like a guy who was ready to leave. Like you don't like he was very public about everything. Like when the whole Amazon thing wasn't public because it was after the Super Bowl, so he wasn't talking to reporters. This one he spoke to us, and I asked him one time, I was like, "Hey, do you ever question if you were going to be a coach because you were just so beat up this past year?" Or I asked him one time, I was like, "Hey, did you think in that Seattle game that was your last play call, your last play, anything, your last anything?" And he was just, kind of annoyed. And then Monday comes and he's just super honest. I'm like, this is a very open conversation. So it made me feel like dude is gone. So when he said he's coming back, I started thinking like it has to be the whole. You can't
he's
leave on
gonna
the
he's gonna
loser, you
come
know.
back like Eric Bischoff. He's gonna be like Hilberto. I'm back and I'm better than ever.
Well, it was
He's
funny
gonna
too
look right
because
at you.
like I told you, I was pretty late to the locker room clean out because
Yeah.
my plane was delayed. And I was like, man, I'm missing the presser, he mentions my name. He's like, yeah, like Gilberto said the other day, is that your last play call? Like, no, I'm 36, man. I have too much energy, and like he made it clear too at the same time that he's gonna keep coaching. But to me, it's kind of like pause a couple years, come back and coach, and do
Which nobody
whatever
would
Sean
blame
Payton's doing.
him.
Yeah, he's a young dude, but then I think you're on to something with like you can't leave on your core like this old unit. It's not an old unit, but it's a veteran group is a better word.
Yeah.
Ramsey, Donald, Bobby Wagner,
What? What?
Stafford.
What? What?
He didn't want to leave those guys on an island, so maybe he was like, all right, I'll stick around for another year. But the thing, Fernando, is like, do you want to keep doing this every single year if you're the Rams?
If he has another one next year, like that, another stinker, then I think he really will be like, you know what, freak. Like I need some time off. Like I need to go relax. Maybe he'll go to Thailand with Cliff Kingsbury. for a little bit, but
Can you see
but
Sean McVay trying to search for Cliff in Thailand? Like, hey, come be my OC. Come over here, man. Where
dude,
are
that
you?
was I'm honestly like I'm surprised. You would think Cliff Kingsbury, but I guess see that's how much damage I think like some of these young coaches take. Because Cliff Kingsbury to say like, dude, I'm gonna take a year off, like, and who knows if he does take the year off or if he decides to like stay in Thailand for a while. But for him to say at his young age, like, hey, I'm gonna take a year off, like that means that Kyler Murray did a number on him. Like,
Well, that too, but it just shows you that we're like they're like the Gen Z of coaches,
yeah,
right? Like they're so
exactly.
different. Like they're not like the
They're
old
willing
school,
to
like
take a
I'm gonna get
break.
tired. Like
When
I'm
it's
taking
like all we know is like gas pedal and that, like all
yeah.
we know is gas pedal, like hurry, like take off, like there's no brakes, there's no this, there's no that, and like these guys are like, you know what, I'm gonna chill
Like,
for. Well, I mean, they're also millionaires, so
catch me in
obviously they,
Thailand.
yeah,
I'm good.
exactly. And hey, they're gonna have fun out there. But obviously, another good episode of or another good segment of Compas on the LA Beat.